Well, welcome. Tonight we're going to meet some people who are very important in our lives, who come to us at our weakest moments, who take care of our families, and who we candidly don't think about enough until we need them. Been around a long time. Most people know who they are, and hopefully they'll be able to give us some insight as to things we should be doing before we need them. Why don't we start with an introduction?
Dave Consigli from Consigli Ruggiero Funeral Home. I'm the owner, and here with me is my daughter, Nicole Comishlian, and she's going to be the up-and-coming member.
Yes. So I'm Nicole Comishlian. I will be hyphenating my name when I get my business cards made, so it'll be Nicole Consigli Comishlian. But I am here for the long run and to serve the Milford community, so we're excited. It's a brand new journey for us.
Well, I think your father would agree with me since he has two daughters and I had two daughters. Wouldn't it have been easier if he just became a consigli?
Ooh,
I
that's a
tell
good
I
one,
tell
Al.
him all the time. I'm like, Dale, you should have just taken my name.
There you go. Be easier to say.
Yes, I think so.
Dave, tell me about the business. If somebody says, what do you do? How do you describe it?
What do? I help people. That's what I do. That's my bottom line. When I took over the business in '96, and it was kind of a funny thing because I said to my father after I signed all the lawyer's papers, I signed everything. I said to my father, I said, what do I do now? And my father said to me, he says, he says, take care of people. And that's what you do. And that's all I've been doing. I have a girl that comes in, pays my bills every week. She comes in, pays my bills. I have my corporate accountant, takes care of that. And I take care of funerals and taking care of people. That's it. And I know it sounds kind of obnoxious, but yes, I know what's going on in my business, but my job is to take care of people, and that's all I do.
Now, I can see why your father wanted you involved.
Yes.
I mean, today's day and age, you see too many, I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but too many funeral homes closing because
I know.
nobody's there to take over.
That's right.
Well, so I will be the second generation of Consigli Ruggiero Funeral Home to keep the name going. So his tradition of being able to help people, I'll be able to help the people that he's helped, their kids and them going forward, which will be a really nice thing for the community. Again, growing up here and everything else.
Now, you're a Milford kid,
Yes.
so how important is it to know the community in Milford?
It's very important. And knowing who is in your community and how they interact and knowing your different religions and knowing your different traditions and things like that, it helps make things a lot easier because you're more educated and being able to help them further.
Is it that different family to family?
Sure it is. Every family's different. Every family has their own wants and they have their own needs. And you have to, and she'll learn this, you have to read them. And when you read it, you'll understand it. It's not said a lot of times. It's not said to you. But you just have to look at it and see it and almost predict what they're going to be doing so you can help them.
Since my apprenticeship started in 2021, and even growing up around the business, there's not been one family that has been like cookie cutter. Everybody who comes through our door has a different story, and that's where you have to read their story and you need to cater to what they need.
Yeah, because you can say we're a funeral business, but we're not a business. We're a family. When you come in, you're a family. Even if we don't know you, you're family. And we treat you like family. There's not anything you want, we'll do. No matter what it is. And I tell every single person that when they come through the door. And your viewers will acknowledge it because whatever you want, you do. And they look at me like, what does that mean? That means anything you want, you get. You want music, you want, bring food in, you want, whatever you want, bring it in. I don't care. Because you have to be comfortable. And your friends have to be comfortable. It's all yours. I do one funeral at a time. That's all. And you come in, it's all yours. So no matter what it is, it is.
Well, I think it's important too, like when you do make arrangements with us, we're not sitting behind a desk. Because it's a little impersonal, like when you go do, insurance for an example, they're there for a job. You're there to do one thing and that's it. But whereas when you come with us, you're sitting at my parents' first kitchen table that they ever bought when my dad bought the business or when they moved in, but it's the same kitchen table that you'll sit at. And, you just sit there, there's no stress, and well, obviously there's stress, but, it just flows, just like we're talking here, and it's the same thing, and we get to know people just like this.
Now, walk me through the basic blocks. If I've had somebody pass away in my family, I call you up, I have no idea, and my mind is probably not as clear as it should be. What are the basic steps that we go
The
through?
first conversation we have, obviously, is going to be over the phone. Or if you walk in, and it's going to be what the person's name is and where are they. Whether it be at their house or whether it be at a nursing home or a hospital. So we need to find that out. Or if they're at the medical examiner's office. So we have to do those first steps first. And then what we always do is we have the people think about what they want. Because we ask them on the phone, what type of funeral service or whatever. They don't know, we'll think about it, and we're going to meet with you tomorrow morning. And that's how we do it. We always try to meet the next day. Sometimes we've got to meet that day, but we always try to meet the next day so they can get everything through their head. And once we get them at the funeral home, then we sit down, we take the information for the death certificate, the obituary. And with the obituary, it's very unorthodox, but I do it. I tell the families, or I ask them, do you want us to write the obit, or do you want to write the obit? And if you look at my obits are pretty much, ba, 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 where yours is going to be a little more flowery. So a lot of people want to see, they add in, I start them, and then they make it more flowery. They'll say Ma cooked, or they took trips to Cape Cod, or they went to Europe and they did this and that. A Red Sox fan, a Patriots fan, they'll put all that in there.
We have some people that write them themselves and then give them to us, and they're already done.
Oh, wow.
People write their own.
Yeah, they write
It's
their own.
just whatever anybody's cup of tea is, but we've been seeing it
But
more.
they leave the date, the date they died blank.
Yes, I hope so. I remember when my mom passed away, we went to the geriatric authority, and there she was, and I felt helpless.
Right.
I had no idea, my sainted mother, what do I do now? And all I could think of is call Dave.
So that's it. And we took it from there.
Yeah.
There was no Nicole back then, so it was
Yeah.
call Dave.
Right. That's what you do.
And as silly as it sounds, magic happened.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that burden, I didn't know, do I call an ambulance?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Hey, listen, my mother died last year, and I was helpless. And I'm a funeral director. So, and I was, my heart was broken. I felt like I was having a heart attack for a month after she died. Went to the doctor, did the whole thing. I had the palpitations, right? And the doctor says to me, so what's happened in your life? And I go, well, my mother died, right? So you still have the same thing. I'm no different than you are. And I can feel the same pain, believe it or not. Because when my father died, and this is kind of a funny story, right? So my father dies, and I'm standing in the line, right? Guy comes up to me, he says, so how's it feel? I go, what do you mean, how's it feel? Well, how's it feel to be on the other side? And I'm going, really? How do you say it? But think about it. Think about it. All those years of working and doing my job, I thought I was doing a good job. I thought I was doing a good job. Now, you know. You know what I'm saying? You know. I've never had a lot of tragedy in my life. Either has these kids, they've never had a lot of tragedy in their life. Yeah, people grow old and they pass away. But there was never a lot of tragedy. I started working when I was 18 doing this, and I've seen a lot of your tragedy and the other people's tragedy. Did I feel it? Yeah, you could feel it, but you don't know it. You know what I mean? There's a whole different story behind it. You know, whether your great-great-grandfather was a funeral director, you have to feel it, and you got to see it, and you have to make sure that it's not business. It's the way it's. This is it's a tough thing, and you gotta own it.
I mean, it was tough. My girls grew up with my mother,
Yeah.
always with them.
Right, they were always in the
She
house.
lived 30-odd years with us.
Right,
I mean, we never knew what a babysitter was because we had grandma.
Yeah.
exactly.
You know, my dad passed away early, and grandma I'm married to a saint because I got home and my darling bride looked and said, you got to move your mother in with us.
Nothing wrong
I
with
said,
that.
really? I didn't know how to ask. She goes, she'll be dead within a year. She says, if you put this old Portuguese grandmother dedicated to the family,
Yeah,
you put her in a house all by herself. We were living in Washington. She goes, she'll wither. She got to Maryland. You could see grandma radar, lock.
Yeah.
I have a grandchild.
Yeah.
That was it.
yeah.
But all of a sudden, I can't describe the reality of saying, she's gone.
All right.
And God bless her, she deserved the peace because she worked so hard her whole life. But it's still, like you say, I guess you're right. I never felt it till,
No, how many weeks have you gone to?
Oh.
And this, and you walk in, I'm sorry, and that's what you did. Now, put your mother in the loop,
Yeah.
and that's what you did. Now it's a whole different story. You see what I mean?
So
Not
now-
that I didn't do my job well. I still did my job. I still did my job, and I did it well. But I think I did it better after.
you'd have to be awful cold not to have that feeling when it's your mother. And I
Well-
know this sounds terribly sexist, but a boy's mother is always a boy's mother.
It is. Your mother's love for their boys are different than the way that they love their daughters. You can see it.
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes.
Tough thing, but yeah, that's what happens.
So
So that's my job. See, I do my job, and that's what she's going to learn. She's going to learn how to do the job, and she's going to learn how to take care of the people. It ain't
But-
about the money.
Not being
It
sexist.
ain't about anything. It's about doing your job.
Women are a little softer than men. So I do feel for our families as well. And my mother-in-law lived with us for probably 3 years, and I took care of her. And when she had passed away, I called my dad, he was the first one, and the same thing. You feel that like void in your house because she was there every day. But you just try to relate to it. And
So step one
it's
is
crazy.
getting my mother to Consigli's.
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
And somehow, I was told, get out of the way, it'll be done.
Right.
And that really meant a lot because, I don't know, mentally, I just wasn't processing it well.
No. No. And we have people calling us up and, talking to us and saying, hey, my mother, father, uncle isn't doing well. What do we do? And I always tell them, take care of them. Once something happens, call us, we'll go and take care of it. And then we'll sit down. We have time. We don't rush.
The other thing, though, is there was a sense of trust.
Yeah.
It wasn't called Acme Funeral Home.
Right. But that's
You
up
know,
to the individual person.
That's my mother.
Right.
And it was called Dave.
Yeah.
Or you call Nicole.
Well, that's why it's important to have that trust too, because we treated your mother like she was part of our family. And that's the way we treat everybody who comes through our door.
So now, Mom goes down to the funeral home. What's the next decision? point? Is it clothes? Is it makeup? Is it?
Well, no, for you, it's coming in, we have to sit down, we have to go over all the information of her history because we need it for the death certificate. And in the same process, we get the information for the obituary. Now, whether you write it or I write it, we get that information. So what is that? How many children, her parents' names, where she was born, your father's name, whether he's living or deceased, and nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters, grandchildren, and then a little bit of history. She was born in Portugal. When did she come to Milford? What employment did she have? And any clubs, organizations, and her special little things that she did. And we do that. But then, obviously we have to have clothes. We have to have a picture so we know how to do her hair, her makeup. And then we set up the time for the church, calling hours, and funeral.
Now,
cemetery.
is that, this sounds terrible, is that a specialized art, doing the makeup and,
It is.
You do, again, being a newly graduate of mortuary school, I was done in February. We have classes that you go through, and they're called restorative art. And they go through how to restore different things, colors, things that blend, different lighting. I mean, they go through everything. So it's not just, somebody lays there and that's what it is. It's a specialized thing that you have to learn to do it.
Yeah, there's just a lot more to it because you have to, if somebody is a little disfigured, you have to refigure it. If, there's just a lot of things that we do, during the embalming process and after, that we do to try to enhance the look, to bring them back a little bit from where they were, like at the nursing home. People come in and say, geez, my mother didn't look good. We're going to have a closed casket. And I tell them, look, let us do our job. And then you come in privately and see her or him. And
then you can
make your
decide.
decision whether or not. And I'm going to tell you, in all the years I've been doing this, we have not had very many closed caskets. So,
now you mentioned embalming. I mean, when my dad passed away, he passed away in Portugal.
you're right.
And there was no,
When did he die? In the 70s?
yeah,
And he died before I was here.
yeah, because Danny was still,
Yeah. He died in the 70s, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I got here in 81, so it's probably right after that.
I had to fly to Portugal because he and my mom went on vacation. And there they bury him the same day
Yeah.
because they don't embalm. They just put him in a wooden box, and
Yeah, but back then I think they sent them to Lisbon, didn't they, to embalm him?
I have no idea.
But they
We-
embalmed him and brought him back, right?
No, we lived in a little village.
Oh, so he's buried over there?
He's
Oh,
buried
okay.
over there. He's buried over there. It's where he wanted. My father always wanted to go back to Portugal.
Right.
Now, my mother came to Milford when she was 16, so this was her home.
Yeah.
Dad came when he was 30,
Uh,
or 20-some 30. So he always talked about going back.
Right.
Do the pilgrimage like a lot of the Portuguese did, where they came here, they worked their whole lives, then they retire back home.
right.
My mother was always clear. She said, my son's never moving to Portugal. You want to move to Portugal? You go, we'll visit. So Mom was Milford. She knew she settled in Milford. But the embalming, for the layman, why?
Well,
It's to disinfect and preserve is basically what it's for.
yeah, it doesn't, it's not
In
a
the
state law.
simplest terms, it's
That's
not
all it is.
required by law. It's to preserve and disinfect.
Pretty much, it's protecting the public.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I was going to say,
Pretty
now wait a
much
minute.
all it is.
I don't want to be mean, but preserving for a day and a half to put in a box and go in the ground. What
Well,
are you preserving?
I mean, by definition of, again, mine's all school stuff. It's not, real life stuff. Well, I can't say not real life, but, he's got, 42 years of doing this. So mine's more like a book. But, yeah. Well, even just to preserve, I mean, we have families that come in and we pick them up on a Friday, and let's say that their services or, we're busy during the week and we can't have them till next Friday. So you have that
Oh, okay.
period too, that's, in the
So
interim
you don't
of,
want the decomposition.
yeah.
No, that's what I said, it's more public health, because it's not a state law, you don't need to be embalmed. But it's more for that purpose. You know, think about going back, well, think about Portugal. I mean, if they're gonna be waked the same day or buried the next day, I mean, I don't know, I've never been to Portugal to see what they look like, but what do they look like? You know, if you die, an unattended death or people around you, they lay you into bed and that's all there is to it, and then everybody comes and sees you. And there's a lot of different odors, I would imagine. That's why they put flowers around the casket and lilies and everything else to get rid of a lot of the smell. But that's where the flowers come from back in the day. So, you know,
That's interesting. So that's where that tradition came from.
and then they used to have the veil, that used to put the veil over the top. Well, the veil used to mask a lot of the look, you know, or they used to keep the flies out. So there's a lot of things going back in time, thinking about what you saw, of the reasons why
So
they
there's
did
a
it.
lot of practical reasons
Yes, there is.
for certain flowers and
Right.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
when
if you go back, that's the way it
When you
is.
really read about it and study it, it's
I mean,
interesting.
embalming started during the Civil War to bring the guys up from the south to the north, from the north to the south. You know, they used to have them in coffins that had literal ice around them. They're called ice boxes. You know, that's why I said put you on ice. That's where all that came from.
oh wow,
Yeah,
learning all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
yeah. I have all that useless information in my head.
So now we decide what clothes. We give you a picture, so you decide what makeup or hair or whatever, you know, and you have to deal with any, you know, making the person look as good as they can if there's any disfigurement.
Right. Like I said, we do the best we can, and everybody does. We all funeral homes do the best they can with what they have, and you know, and it hopefully comes out the
But
way.
David, with all due respect, it's like going to your kid's recital. You know, let's face it, the first time we went to Stacy to listen to them playing instruments, it was like pulling the tails off small farm animals.
Yeah.
But to us, it was Broadway. It was wonderful.
Right.
You know, when you say, my father, what did he look like? He looked majestic. Because in my eyes, now, from a trained professional, you probably would have seen flaws,
Yeah.
but that was my dad.
Right.
Or what you guys did with my mom.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. There's days that we can't do anything, and I'll tell you, there's a thing we can do, but you know, everybody's totally aware of it. Especially, you know, back in the day, there was a lot of things that were said, and I learned to do the opposite. Always learn to do the opposite, because I didn't want people believing lies. I wanted them to believe the truth, and I wanted them to make sure that they understood the same thing that I saw. I want them to see it, and I want them to understand it, you know. And I know that doesn't make any sense. I really can't get into it because it's too far out there. But that's what I wanted them to learn, is the truth. Tell the truth. And don't blame somebody else, you blame yourself. And everybody that's ever worked for me, I told them the same thing. You know, you have to do it. You have to do that. You take the blame. Don't blame somebody else for it. Makes you look better. It's a lot easier to deal with. But there's things we can't do. And when I can't do it, I'll let you know I can't do it.
So what are the choices? I mean, obviously,
It's not a hard thing. It's not a hard thing. That's why we got to make you happy. And what are your other choices? Your other choices are, what music do you want played? Do you want, you know, videos of your parents or pictures brought in? Bring them in. We try to make it as easy as possible. So you're going from home to this home, right? And it's going to be comfortable. And basically, it has to be comfortable.
no, that's
There
one
can't
of the
be any
coolest
stress.
things when we're in the hallway, seeing the collages, the video pictures.
Right.
Because a lot of times, well, not for the family, but for the friends, you recognize
Yeah.
lots of people that you knew.
Sure you do, because a lot of times your pictures have people in them. Like, we had a wake a couple weeks ago that my uncle was in. My uncle was part of the family, but my uncle and his kids were in the picture. And then the week later, it just happens that my cousin died that was in the picture. But but it's just, I see it myself because people have pictures of family of mine in their family. Because everybody's related, right?
It's nice to look through them too, even being there, because when they catch you looking at their photos, and they have like their stories of their family, and then the stories behind the photo and all that stuff. And I love to hear all of that because it gives them a chance to like reflect as well, and like bring some like positivity to such a a traumatic thing.
Now, do you prepare those PowerPoint, I guess they're PowerPoint, those slides, or does the family?
Typically, the family does it. If they need help, we will obviously assist with that. But typically, they put their own personal spin on all of that stuff.
I can't do that. I'm still on the paper pictures.
That's why you got Nicole. With you, it would still
That's
be
what everybody tells
tablets. It'd be granite
now we have-
tablets.
Yeah.
We have this thing called Bluetooth music that we have over there, which I have no clue about, but she can understand it.
Yeah, well, we got that. We
So-
got Apple Music. We
Yeah.
got our Facebook and Instagram page now,
Yeah, I
so
never had
we're doing good.
And she said, Dad, how come we never had Instagram? How come we never have Facebook? I said, I want it. Well, I'm going to do it. So she created the page, and she puts all the obits on it. So she'll take all the obits that are on my webpage, put it on Facebook and Instagram,
Which
and
is
then,
nice because then the families will
Yeah,
follow
can I have
our
your
page.
credit card for the Apple ID? Yeah, go ahead.
And
I don't
then
care.
we,
I don't know anything about Apple ID.
And then
I
they
didn't know you had to eat an apple with an ID. That's all I didn't
and
know.
they share it on their Facebook pages and stuff like that for people who don't want to put it in the newspaper. So social media is actually pretty important in our field of work now.
You grew up in Milford.
Yes.
You know a lot of the families already.
Yeah.
Does that give you an advantage to understanding the families? Like, you're part of clubs in Milford. You're part
Yeah.
of activities.
Yeah. It does, and we've had some people who have come in, and I'm a jazzercise instructor at Milford Jazzercise on West Street, and some of the people who are our customers there have lost loved ones, and we've been able to serve them, and they're not happy to see me, but it gives them that little bit of trust. Being in clubs in Milford too, it's the same thing that, they know you on a personal level, so they're a little bit more relaxed, and like we keep going back to the word trust, but that's the only word that I can put with that is trust with your loved ones.
Well, at that point,
And
it
his
was
dad doesn't
trust.
have it. She makes him down and do 50 push-ups.
Yeah.
No, but it was trust because you're taking my mother.
Yes.
And I'm making it personal, but
Yeah.
Dave, you took my mother.
Right.
If I didn't trust you, God help me.
And again, it's the golden rule. And even, I keep going back to in school, but in school, they taught us about the golden rule, which is basically treat people the way that you want to be treated. So I would want my mother to be treated the exact same way as we treated your mother. Like, nobody is any less or equal, or, just everybody is treated as if they were a part of our family.
Now, you see things like caskets. Do they vary much? I mean, some of the religions, it's a plain wooden box.
Yeah, caskets are like cars. Same thing. You have, this one here and you got that one there. They range from, $1,000 to $40,000. And what's the difference? You have the different steels. You have thicknesses of steel. You have different woods. You got mahoganies. You have cherries. You have hardwoods. You got pines. You got pecan. You got maple. And you have the sealed casket against the non-sealed casket. You have crepe interior. You have velvet. I mean, there's just so much. And they have the outside with all the like the pieta on the outside of the casket. You have stationary handles. You have handles
Hinge,
that
you have-
hinge handles.
There's so many
There's
options.
just so many things, and it's up to you. We have them. we can get any casket you want, and it's up to what you feel. And that's the same way with the showroom. That you walk in, you pick what you want. I'm not going to show you what you want. I'll tell you
No,
anything you want, but I'm not going to bring you there. I'm not a
You've
car
got-
salesman.
The deluxe casket, you said $40,000.
Yeah, you can go to one John Gotti went in, it's 80. Solid gold. Well, it's actually bronze with
I'd be more worried that somebody'd want to
Gold
dig
plate.
it up.
Yeah.
gold plated.
Why?
Well, you know what it is? It's the last gift.
Okay. So
It's
it's
the last gift.
more for the people buying it
Yeah,
because the outcome is preordained.
right.
Fancier casket or
It's the last gift. How many people come in and they say, you know what, my father just wanted to throw in a bag in the backyard. Well, it can't happen, so you gotta pick something. Right? Well, he'd be killing us if we spent more money, so they pick what they want. So I do whatever you wanna do. When I bought the casket for my mother and father, it was the last gift, and that was it. So I spent what I felt as though I should spend. People come in and do the same thing. Nobody has to do that, but it is what it is, So and the casket is, they should just really have one casket. Because they basically all do the same thing. You go in it, you go in the ground. Because then you go in a vault, you gotta go into a cement vault because cemeteries require it. Unless you get in a green cemetery, we can just be put in a basket and boom, put in the ground.
okay,
But
wait a minute, take me back. You have to be put in a cement vault.
Yeah.
Why?
It's a cemetery rule.
Why?
Cemetery rule in certain areas. Milford, all these areas have that. Well, if you can't remember back to the old days, but if you had a wooden casket, and like they do in a lot of the other cemeteries, they have wood, and what they do is they mound the graves,
Yep.
and then once they all start,
So it
it comes down.
decays.
Right, okay. It's religion, but the vaults, if you read back in history, came back, they were in boxes, and they used to seal them for grave robbers. That's what that was about. But then it comes in to now, you're putting cement in the ground, and the cemetery's gonna stay level. It's just gonna stay level. They say it's about protection, it's about a lot of other things. But everything is, I believe it's up to the cemeteries.
Now, I read somewhere that the custom of 6 foot under, the 6 foot came to protect the bodies from animals. Is there any truth to that?
I don't know.
Because I was reading that at 6 feet, the animals couldn't smell the corpse or dig it up or.
Probably true for like back in the day, but now, I mean, you're in the casket, then you're in the vault, and
Oh, you remember the graveyard shift? The graveyard shift was that they used to have the bell, right? They would attach a bell to the dead person, and the guy would be in the cemetery in the middle of the night listening for the bells. That was a graveyard shift.
well, because back in the day they didn't have the technology we do now
Right.
to be able to detect
So
if
how many
someone was
people they
dead or
buried-
not. So
how
that's
many
why
people
they
they
say
buried
saved
alive?
by the bell. So when they would bury him with that on their fingers so that they could pull it, and then they would have to dig them up because they were falsely buried.
They were alive?
They were alive. That's why Saved by the Bell. Crazy, isn't it?
There's a lot of things, like peekaboo. You got Ring Around the Rosie, Pocket Full of Posy. That was back in the day
Black
of the
Plague.
Black Plague. So all these little rhymes that we sang when we were kids, they all had a meaning.
I never knew Saved by the
But I
Bell.
will say though that the funeral service is not as like dark as we're talking about all these things. It's actually really type of it's like a lighter. Well, I feel like I don't feel like it's like a really like dark job, if that makes sense.
No,
It's
it's
more
a
like
celebration.
uplifting. It's more being
It's a
able to help
celebration
people,
of
and
what
that
my
makes
mother
us feel
did for
good.
our family.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're ruled by a lot of rules here. We were ruled by the church because our job's gonna shift because of the church. When we could do 3 funerals a day, we can only do 1 a day now. Remember back in the day, we would do 9, 10, 11. Now we do 1, right?
Why?
Because there's not enough people to do the job,
You mean not enough priests? Or?
right? Not enough priests to do the job. And if they're watching, they can tell me I'm wrong, but, you know, we used to do 9, 10, 11. And we don't do a lot of calling hours. The calling hours are now done mostly in the morning. They used to be
Yeah,
done at
I've
night.
noticed that, we used to have
We used to have 2 to
two
4, 7
nights,
to 9. Yeah.
2
7 to
nights,
9.
and then you went in the morning when
Yeah,
the
things
burial
all
was
shifted.
happening.
Right.
I mean, it's people's preference. I mean, if you wanted to have 2 days, you could do it, but they're making it all in one day. So they'll do either 2 hours before church or an hour. Some people don't have anything, but it's all personal
Now,
preference.
Nicole, is that more to minimize the pain you're going through? Is it cost?
No, I don't know about that.
I mean, standing there for 2 days seems a lot.
It is a lot.
I mean, 2 days at 2 to 4, 7 to 9. And I remember growing up as a kid, my mom would have dinner on the table at like 4 o'clock, and we would get home at 3. And I'm like, as soon as we got home from school, we'd be eating dinner, but Dad had to go back to work. So, it is a lot for 2 days like that, and it's a lot for a family. And not that families want to get it over with, but the night before is good, and then the next day is obviously really draining.
They're getting
So
the
it's
same
just
job done, no matter
emotionally-
which way you look at it.
What they want to do.
If people are gonna come, and people would say to me, Dave, do you think this is too much? And, we better not do this because of this. And I said, when my father died, he died up in Buffalo shoveling snow, and in 2007. Well, there was 6 feet of snow the day he died, and he died shoveling it. And the next day, we had to go to the funeral home to make arrangements. And then my mother had that night, I don't know if it was whatever the calling hours were, I don't remember. But there was a snowstorm. There was 12 inches of snow in the parking lot of the funeral home. And the funeral home was right on Lake Erie, so you had lake effect coming in. And the place was jam-packed. And people would say to me, well, do you think people will come? And I always tell them the story. They came to my father's, and it was a snowstorm. People will come no matter what. They'll come, and they'll be here. So don't worry about it. And the way it is, whether it be 2 days, 1 day, an hour before, 2 hours before, people are going to come. And it's going to be just as many people that are going to come within those periods.
And people also say too, they're like, well, my mom doesn't have many friends left, or she's the last one. But it's also for their sons or their daughters who have loved ones, who have friends, who have their family and things like that, to be able to visit as well.
Well, there's been many a time where we've gone out of respect for the son. Now, you didn't really know the mother or father, but
Right.
you want to show some support.
Yes, and that's what they need at that point.
Is it becoming larger or smaller, the crowds that go to the wakes?
That depends on the person.
Well, no, but I'm just saying in general.
It depends on the person, because they're still large. We have lines, and then some days we don't have lines. So it depends. Nothing on that level changed. When COVID hit, obviously it changed because we could only do so much. And what we did at the funeral home, because they would say we could only have 10 people, and I'm like, well, that ain't gonna happen. So I just told the family, just come. You got 1,000 people? Let them come. Government ain't gonna tell me that you can't grieve. So you come.
I
No matter
would
what
not
happens,
want to
happens.
be you telling a Portuguese grandmother that they can't grieve for their family.
Let me tell you something. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. So I went through it, and I was like, I don't think so. I'm going, I don't give a shit what happens. That's what I said. I'm like, I'm done. Because I can't tell you, you can't come. You know what I mean? You have, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, 80 people in your family, and that's your immediate family, and then we can only have 10 people. That never happened in my funeral home. Whatever you had, you bring them in. If you opted to only have the 10, that was up to you. It wasn't up to me. The door was open.
But that was always a Milford thing, 'cause I remember when I was a kid, one of my mother's girlfriends was in the Milford Hospital. And they used to have the rule where you had 2 cards, because you could only have 2 people visiting at the same time. They never took into consideration that the Portuguese grandmothers knew where the back doors were. So I went up one time, and the room was full of all the Portuguese grandmothers. And the floor nurse, I think, came in and starts talking to them, saying, "You can't be in here."
How'd that work out?
All of them looked
Right.
in sync. No speaky Ingy.
That's it.
And I'm looking at them because I know these people, and they've been here like my mother 40 years, 50, they can speak. And one in Portuguese looked at me and says, "You rat us out, you die."
Yeah. Right, there you go.
And it's like, I'm looking at these grandmothers saying, not going to be me that rats them out and tells them they can't be here to support their girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So how, we didn't do it. If you opted, you got it. But other than that, it was like, there's nothing I can do. You do what you got to do. And, COVID changed a lot about this business.
Well, and I
And,
think too, that's probably where it started with the one day.
Yeah.
With the having the wake and the funeral in the same day, so that people didn't have to have the 2 days or didn't, have the risk per se. They wanted to make it easy for everybody.
Is this the reason that you don't have Acme Funeral Home? I think about the way you're describing the funerals. Everything is so custom. It's not like somebody's going to come from New Jersey and set up a funeral home and just cookie cutter it out. And
Yeah, it won't happen. Not in small towns. They won't even do it. I mean, a friend of mine just sold in Framingham. And he didn't have anybody take it over. His wife sold too. Wife had one. And nobody take it over, so they sold out. You did your job, and that's the way it was. I mean, I'm only 62 this year. I still got another, if every, God blesses me, I'll still have another, maybe 16, 18, 20 years? So I'll be
I told him
82,
he's not going
85.
anywhere. He's going to be 1,000. Just put that on the
They have
record.
me stuffed at the front door like they did with William Penn. I know, that's what they'll do. But, I'm glad she came in.
no, I can see it from your point, but of all the professions, smart, good-looking young lady can choose from. I mean, I've seen it where we've had plans at the mayor's meetings with Dave, and all of a sudden it's like, oops, nope.
Yeah.
He can't plan anything because we keep telling him he should give memos. You're only allowed to pass away on Tuesday at 5. Why this?
It's really funny because
Good question, Al. I want to listen to this one
all
too.
right. So what I feel like is that it was always intended to be this way. My dad told me my whole life, I built this business for you. I built this business for you. I built this business for you. And I was like, yeah, whatever, Dad, it's fine. But when him and I had a conversation about this and what's transpiring right now, I felt like my calling was there. It was finally a time for me to be able to be like, you know what, this is really what I'm truly meant to do and what I was put here for, to help people. My dad helps people. My mom works. She's a home health aide. She helps people. I grew up with people who help people, and that's what was instilled in me, and now it's my turn to do it. And I feel really settled. I feel like everything's really great, and I am excited. I never go to work and I feel like I'm missing out on anything. I work with my family every day. My husband's there too, and it's great. I love what I do.
Mr. Almost Consigli is
Mr.
working.
Almost Consigli, yep.
That's funny.
He's
I'm
going
gonna
to
tell
be
him
like,
that
really,
tomorrow.
Nicole?
I'm gonna tell him that
I'm not
tomorrow.
watching this interview. But yeah, no, I love what I do, and that's why I try to keep, a brightness about the business, and I don't want to make it a dark thing, and because you help people through their worst times. And yeah, does it get, a little trying, and sometimes it's a lot on you, but you got to learn how to separate yourself, like my dad was saying.
Now, you mentioned I should plan ahead to help my family.
Yeah.
Okay, step one, what should I do?
You call us up, you make an appointment, and
You
then we
just
sit
come
down
on
with
in.
you exactly the way we would sit down as if somebody passed away. Got all the same information. We go through the whole funeral, and you get what the cost is gonna be, and if you decide you're gonna prepay it, we put it into a trust, and it goes under, it's a Consigli Ruggiero Funeral Home umbrella, and it goes into a trust. It's under your social security number. You have a pre-need contract that states between you and the funeral home, how much money what your funeral costs. We put it into Charles Schwab in Boston, and it sits there until you pass away. It does earn interest, so the interest, what we do is we cost protect it. Now, this is the important part, because we cost protect the total price, and the total price includes everything: cemetery, all the cash advances, newspaper, death certificates, church, cemetery, all that. A lot of funeral homes don't do the cash advance, so they can't cost protect it. So what happens is, if it's not cost protected, then you die, and if the cost is more on the day you die, then your family has to pick up the tab for the rest of it.
No, wait a minute, I'm gonna come in and, sorry to interrupt, between 10, 15,000, sound like a good
Yeah,
number?
just let's say $10,000.
$10,000
Everything's done,
today.
Yeah.
I don't die for 10 years.
right, and the interest that accrues on that money stays with it. So in theory, it's supposed to keep up with anything
Right.
that fluctuates.
What
It's
happens
supposed
if
to
it
keep up.
doesn't?
Then if you cost protect it, then it's over. You eat it.
When you say you eat it, me, the person, or you,
No,
the
funeral home.
consigli?
Consigli.
Oh. So it's like an insurance policy to say, I'm giving you 10 grand today
Right, and that's why
for
a lot
this
of.
kind of funeral.
Right, and that's why a lot of funeral homes don't cost protect it. I do, because, and the only reason why I do, and I, if you wanna say I take the gamble, I take the gamble. But think about it, you come to me, and you're a widower, and you say, listen, I wanna take care of my funeral so my kids don't have to worry about it.
Right.
So you come to me and we do the whole thing, and we cost protect it. It's irrevocable. And your daughters come to me and say, Dave, my father died, and, he got everything all set, everything's all taken care of. Yep, everything's all done. He told you it's taken care of, and you got the paperwork, it's all done, and you don't have to worry about a thing. All you gotta worry about is your flowers, and if you're gonna have a meal at the club. That's it. Now, how would that look if you left my funeral home? You said to your kids, don't worry about it, I took care of everything, you're all set. So now they come to me after you die, and they said, Dave, everything's all set, my father's all paid. No, you still gotta pay for this. Well, my father said, because when you left, you felt as though everything was all done. See?
Go back to that trust thing.
It's all trust.
That's what it comes down to. So, basically, it's either off a couple $100 or over a couple $100. That's basically all it is. It's not that big of a deal. Unless there was a time, like with the newspapers, were at $50, now they're at $800. So now you got that big fluctuation.
For an obit?
Oh, yeah.
That's why a lot of
they
people
ain't cheap, Al.
they write their own obituaries.
Oh, they're
and they
$1,000.
put them on our website, and then Facebook and Instagram and things like that.
And they won't
They
put it in-
share them
And they
because
won't put it in the Milford Daily
it's
News.
it's kind of
Too much
crazy.
money. I'm sorry if your viewers from Milford Daily News are watching, but that's why a lot of my,
Daily News cover Milford?
yeah,
It's I think it's Metro West now or
Yeah.
it's
something.
Metro West Milford, but it's too much money.
I just get confused when I see local news and I see Natick. Natick never felt local to me.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
the world's getting smaller.
Milford people typically don't leave Milford, so that's real far.
You know?
$800 for an obit?
Yeah. It's about average.
Wow.
It gets up there. Some of them are over 1,000. The more wordy you get, the more you pay. So that's what I'm saying. So, but in just the whole thing is, if you come in, everything's cost protected, done. It's irrevocable in case, you do it because you're going into a home or wherever you're going to be going into, and they know that you spent the money down.
Does it matter what church you pick?
No, don't matter.
We service all religions and every ethnicity. We do everything.
Yeah.
And we travel anywhere.
Yes, we do.
Travel anywhere.
We last week went to Hyde Park. We've been doing some burials in Natick. There was one.
Yeah, we've been going to the
We've
Cape for Bourne.
been doing Bourne. Anywhere.
Holy moly. You're saying you travel anywhere, thinking Sacred Heart, St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Hopedale. Hopedale, we need a passport when we go there.
Yeah, it's strange because I remember when my mom's girlfriend passed away, we went down to Vernon Grove, and I looked at her and she looked at me, and I said, "Do you feel it?" She goes, "Yes." The names. There's no vowels at the end of these names.
That's what I got now. The
Yeah.
Armenians are there.
It just, all of a sudden, it was like, we've never been to this.
Yeah.
So I know, that's right. So if you gotta widen you gotta widen it for you. So,
Talk to me about cremation. You said that it's not quite 50% nationwide.
we're not, well, it probably is nationwide, but
For
we're
us
not.
personally,
No,
no.
we're not. I mean, cremation, it's all different aspects of it. So you can either be directly cremated, which means we pick you up from where you die, we have to hold you, and we have refrigeration at our place. I don't know how many other guys have them, but we have it. And we put you in the refrigerator we have to hold you for 48 hours under mass law. And then we take it to the crematory. And then after that, we bring back your cremains and we give them to you, and then you can bury them, scatter them, hold them, do whatever you want with them. But then we have where we'll have a full service. So we'll embalm you, we'll put you in a rental casket, because what we have is a rental casket and the cremation case inside. So it looks just like a regular casket. But the cremation case is inside. You have the calling hours, go to church, you can have a funeral home service, and then we'll bring you back if you go to church, and then we take it to the crematory. And then you'll bury, scatter, hold them, whatever you want to do. So,
The B option is what we see more than
yeah.
direct cremation.
So you're doing a full service.
So you still do
with a
the full
cremation.
service. You still have a service with your loved one there. And
You
then
still
we
have a
take them.
wake.
Yep, you still have a wake. Yep.
And the savings is great because you're saving a vault, you're saving the cemetery, you're saving a lot of things. So it is a little bit less expensive. I mean, direct cremations obviously is the least expensive.
And then for the stone, do you get involved in that at all, or
No, people call me and ask me, and I tell them, I can't
here's
sell
2 or
stone.
3 places, go pick?
Right. I have my favorites. After all these years. So it's like my flowers, I have my favorites, so.
Well, I mean, you think about some of the, I don't know what you'd call them,
Hey, this business has been affected big time because it's, what do you call it? It's a captive audience. It's basically how this is coming down. It's a captive audience. The prices that are being charged for graves and cemetery plots, openings, and things like that, I mean, it's a captive audience. So they pretty much can charge what they want, and it's hitting you. Because if the cemetery charges me $100, I charge you that same $100. I'm not making any money on it, but it makes my funeral bill look bigger. So if I say to you, hey, your funeral bill's $12,000, well, mine includes everything, which is the cemetery, the whole thing. I can tell you, before that would it be, but then you're gonna say, well, you didn't tell me the right thing because it doesn't include this.
Well, we're seeing more and more cemeteries struggle to break even.
Well,
Because you think about it, what does a plot cost? $1,200?
well, it depends. They range from, I don't know, 1,000 to 1,300.
Okay, so say 1,300.
Then you got the grave opening in there too, so you got another,
That's just for the lot, and then when you pass away, they gotta open it, and
yeah,
that's
they gotta dig the
between
hole.
900 and 1,000, depending on the day.
Depends on where you go.
Depending on the day.
Yeah, if you get buried on the weekend or during the week, winter, spring, it's all
Right.
different.
You mean you have a Friday special or?
Yeah,
You gotta die, this is how you gotta die. You gotta die on a spring day, you gotta
During
be
the week.
buried before, yeah, during the week and be buried before noon.
No, I was just thinking though, even
So there's your
$1,000
That's
memo.
what I'm saying.
to
It's just a-
maintain that
Yeah.
grave
yeah.
for the next 100 years.
Well,
That's not a
that's
lot
up
of
to the,
money.
well, that's up to the cemetery. The cemetery has perpetual care. I don't know how that works. That's not my gig.
No, but we take the perpetual care fund, throw in $1,000. Then you gotta pay,
No, I know. You gotta figure how many, people die every day. Think about it. But they're not getting buried at St. Mary's or Sacred Heart every day. You know what I'm saying? So, the cemetery's been there, I don't know how long St. Mary's has been in Milford, but let's say it's 1800. So it's been there all these years, and they had money. But what did they do with the professional care money?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What would they do with it? I don't know. So, was it supposed to add up? Did they, at some point, didn't bury anybody and they needed to keep it for upkeep? So there's a lot of, and then as time goes by, charges go up. You know what I'm saying?
Nicole, you two are two people that are exempt from turn off your phone
Yeah.
because you never know why.
I'm itching right now, Al.
Well,
I was gonna
yeah.
say it. I heard you say, "Dad, your phone." Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, he's got an exemption.
Yeah.
That,
But yeah, so I don't, like I said, and cemeteries are gonna get caught up in the same thing because the prices increased. Towns have to go by, what do you call that, prevailing wage, right? So the town cemetery now is gonna charge more money than another cemetery. So there's a lot of different things that are happening and people are gonna have to, they're gonna be taking the burden.
Well,
And
I
we
think-
see it, and we try to do the best we can because, we bury people that don't have money, right? And we try to help them as best we can, and we negotiate, and we try to be the intermediary between everybody and try to get things to work. And it works,
Well,
it works.
I thank you for everything you do and for coming on and explaining a topic that none of us want to talk about.
I know, nobody wants to.
And thank you for being Generation 2,
Yes.
because I get worried that of all the funeral homes in Milford, who's going to be around?
We'll still be around.
Well, I'm only 36, and if my cards are played right, I'll be here for another 40, 50 years. So,
There you go.
well, you've got a long time looking at this face.
That's good news for all of us.
Yeah.
And as always, to our 6 loyal viewers, thank you for joining. May God bless, and may tomorrow be a better day than today. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Far too long since I've been home. Been running all my life just